Listen and enjoy the DeepRedRadio pod.
Herzlich willkommen, liebe Hörerinnen und Hörer, zu meinem kleinen Interview, welches ich mit Tom Botchii geführt habe. Das ist der Regisseur von Artik. Dieser wiederum lief als Europapremiere auf dem diesjährigen Hardline Film Festival und ich hatte die Chance, im Zuge des Media Days mit Tom zu sprechen. Dort ist wie immer der Zeitplan recht straff gepackt und so habe ich mich dann auch auf so die Essentials zum Film beschränkt. Wir haben also ein schönes, kompaktes, kleines 10-Minuten-Interview gemacht, was ich aber gern auch an anderer Stelle in Zukunft mal vertiefen würde, weil der Tom ist ein interessanter Mann mit einer interessanten Vita und wir hatten auch viele Gespräche. Wir haben zusammen gegessen, wie ihr auch schon im Tagespodcast gehört habt, und er hat halt viel erzählt, auch über sein Leben fernab des Films, als quasi auch Einwanderer in die USA, über die politischen Verhältnisse, alles, was eigentlich gar nicht so richtig jetzt zu Artik passt. Deswegen halt unser kleines Interview und später vielleicht, wenn wir die Chance und die Zeit haben, per Skype da noch was zu machen, irgendwann mal mehr. Artik an sich ist ein Film, bei dem ich erst ein bisschen skeptisch war, ob der mir gefallen würde, weil es geht ja schon um eine gewisse Torture-Problematik, die aber mit einer interessanten Backstory unterfüttert wird. Denn wir haben hier in Artik ein Familienoberhaupt, möchte man sagen, in einer interessanten Konstellation, der halt einerseits Künstler ist, der Comics liebt, aber nicht so sehr die Superhelden darin, sondern eher die düsteren Gestalten, und der aber Inspiration dadurch findet, dass er andere Leute quält und umbringt. Und das versucht er beides, also so seine Liebe und seine Leidenschaft fürs Zeichnen und fürs Comic, für Malen, an seinen Ziehsohn, den Boy Adam, weiterzugeben, aber wie auch die Inspiration, die er sich holt, und er setzt dem Jungen da schon ganz schön was aus. Das bleibt nicht unbemerkt bei einem jungen Mann, der halt quasi zu einem Freund von Boy Adam wird und sich für dessen Leben interessiert und dann auch auf einmal als quasi Gegenspieler zum eigenen Vater, zum Artik, erwächst, der das sich natürlich nicht gefallen lassen kann, dass sich hier jemand in das von ihm erdachte Familienleben einmischt. Und da entspinnt sich ein interessantes Duell, was natürlich nicht ohne grafische Gewalt auskommt, aber am Ende doch ein bisschen anders ist als so der 0815 Torture Porn. Ein bisschen anders auch in dem Sinne, als dass der Tom Botchii hier einen ganz speziellen, alten, grobkörnigen Look gewählt hat. Hier vollkommen auf Grindhouse macht, das mit den Sehgewohnheiten bricht, die man heutzutage eher so gewohnt ist. Ich aber sehr spannend fand von der Art der Visualisierung, die hier gewählt worden ist. Nochmal an dieser Stelle, thanks Tom for having us. Also vielen Dank Tom für dieses Interview und viel Spaß euch damit, es zu hören. Dear listeners, this is Max from the DeepRedRadio podcast. We're here at the Hardline Film Festival, and sitting next to us is director Tom Botchii. And thanks for joining us and welcome to the show. The first question is, what happened to your last name?
Got rid of it.
Too complicated for the movie business?
Too many letters.
Yeah.
It's just Skoronsky. It's so hard to say. I don't even know if I'm spelling it correctly anymore. So just decided to go with the nickname Tom Botchii. I used to be in a band. We were called Botchii, and it just kind of stuck. Tom Botchii. So, yeah.
Your logo. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you give the listeners a short overview about the early steps of your career so far before Artik?
Yeah. Before Artik, I used to make movies with my Ninja Turtles when I was growing up, and like record them with like VHS-C camcorder tapes and just like cut the actual tape together and scotch tape the edits and play them in VCRs. And I got into documentary filmmaking when I was growing up, and then from there I got into music videos, and from music videos I directed a lot of those. It led to doing short films, and then after short films, Artik became my first feature film.
So you are a jack of all trades. What do you prefer more? Writing the script, directing the movie, playing the guitar for the soundtrack, editing the movie, or being the stunt choreographer? What you like most on set?
Well, honestly, the two things I enjoy most are editing and stunt choreography,
Okay.
like fight choreography, just because I grew up a huge pro wrestling fan. So like stunt choreography, fight choreography, it's kind of like wrestling where it's like you're almost doing a live performance. And it's like editing but live. And that's what directing kind of is like I love video editing. But when you're on set, a lot of people don't realize that's when the edit starts. And I think people think the edit is when you get back to like your studio and you start editing your footage. For me, it's even as you're writing the script, you're editing. That's a physical part of actual film editing. And so fight choreography is kind of like doing that live. You know, you're seeing what works, and I would love to do more of that. That's not my number one passion, but if I'm doing a film, I would love to be involved with more of that side of things.
Okay, and at the Q&A you described your first feature film Artik as an anti-comic movie. So you are a comic fan, but are you this bored with the DC and the Marvel films, the recent? So you decided to go in another direction, not a superhero, but a super villain.
Yeah, I think they're all trash, and they have so much money. They have so much support. Why continue to give them money? I just feel like a lot of people think that when one area of film is doing great, that all areas of film benefit. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true. I think there's one area of film right now that's monopolizing the rest of the industry. And unfortunately, unless you are part of that spectrum, you are actually giving less opportunities. And for me, I feel like right now, the best thing in film is to give and open up as many opportunities to all types of filmmakers. And so Artik was a unique experience in that it was exactly the opposite of that type of film. And that's what I wanted to do, is almost not necessarily insult that audience, but just go against the grain to everything that they're used to.
Yeah. So the main character of your movie, Artik, is not the positive superhero, but a comic artist and a torture-loving serial killer with a strange understanding of family. I would summarize this. And you told us, the audience, that you got inspired for the character by your father. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. My dad used to speak he was very strict, and he used to speak in a very slow tone. But a lot of people think that when you speak slow, you're not intelligent. And the thing with my dad is he was extremely intelligent, extremely calculating. And I always thought that'd be interesting as a character who's trying to get into the mind of somebody's head, like into the mind of a victim. And so that's kind of how I based Artik, is he makes the conversation come to him. And I thought that was more interesting than someone just kind of spouting off exposition in a scene. Instead, he's almost like making you realize you're being tortured, or making you realize you're going through something far more intense than you thought you might be going through. And that's all based on my dad. That's true.
And you trained the actor Jerry G. Angelo he's a bear of a man, to speak a little bit deeper, darker, like your father. So it was a long voice training for him.
Yeah, we worked together for about a month and a half before shooting the film. Jerry has a normal, happy voice. He's a happy person. He loves life. And so what I wanted to do was get him to completely transform for a role. He is someone who I felt deserved a lot of opportunity and wasn't being given an opportunity. So I said, hey, well, we have to do something completely different for you. We have to try as hard as we can to make you somebody else, And he really wanted to try to do a challenge like that as an actor, where he could work more like a Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that, instead of just essentially playing a version of himself. He wanted to completely be a chameleon and change entirely. And so part of that was taking his voice from sounding normal and high-pitched and happy to very low and almost like this weird accent that felt familiar, but like you couldn't discern where it's from. You just know he's from the woods or farms or something, but you don't know where. And so I just wanted to give it a bunch of unique tones to that character, and the voice was one of those things.
You told the audience one of your favorite graphic novels is the Nightfall saga from Batman. Is Artik your bane because of the physics? Were very
could be maybe subconsciously. Could be. Yeah, I did love that series. There's another comic I forgot to mention that's a newer comic, and it's called Postal. And I feel like people should check that out if they get a chance. It's very, very interesting, different type of comic book. But yeah, he could be. I do miss that era of comics where bad things happened, because that's kind of, comic books have been safe for a long time. And even when I was growing up, they were safe until that one era hit where, due to marketing, they were trying to really, kill off these very well-known characters. So
80s and 90s, was it?
It was like mid 90s.
90s,
yeah.
Spawn and
Spawn,
the
Dark Horse had started. And so DC and Marvel were trying to compete with the advent of Dark Horse. And so they were, looking at, there was the death of Superman. There was Nightfall with Batman. And that era of comic books, I feel like, has long passed. And it's too bad, because I thought that was a very interesting time frame.
Yeah, coming back to the movie, in Artik, the main character wants to pass his drawing and his torturing skills to his son, or boy Adam. And how was working with these young actors in such a graphic, violent kind of movie? I always think it's very hard. You told us it's good to have the mother in the project too. Yes. It helps.
Well, here's the thing, and this may sound a little funny, but it's the truth. Working with all the kid actors was fine for me, but one of the reasons is because I had lots of sugar on set. And so they say working with animals and working with kids is the most challenging, but the truth is, if you have enough treats for an animal, you could probably get that animal to do what you want. And if you have enough sugar on set, just make the kids work for it. And there you go. That's the trick.
We already have to finish the last question. I really like the gritty style of your movie. It looked like a grindhouse movie. I think it was the idea. Also the final credits. But you told us it was not shot on analog material. You shot it on digital and then you destroyed it.
Yes.
Is it easier to shoot digital, to do it this way?
The idea, I think, with shooting on analog is you get this look that's very processed and lots of film grain. But when you shoot digital, the idea is you have options. So maybe if that technique didn't work, you could go back to a more clean look. But for me, what I realized is when you shoot digital and you want to go for an analog look, you could actually push it even further, because that digital film does not break down as easily. So you have to work harder to get it to look like it's broken down. And then you could keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and the footage overall never degrades. Like your actual files on your card's not going to break necessarily. So I found it a lot more fun. I found it a lot more of a challenge. And also I found that I actually had far more options in terms of taking it further than I could with analog. So that's why we did it that way.
Thanks, Tom, for joining us. Enjoy the last days of the festival and your stay in Germany. We are looking for next movies to come from yours and another conversations without the microphone. Thanks for having us.
And thank you for having me.